Hello everyone, let's talk about something that most people never dare to put into words. That magnetic, electric moment when two people meet and you feel something shift in the air. You've been there. You walk into a room and without exchanging a single word, you sense it. Her eyes linger just a little longer. Her breath catches ever so slightly. Her posture changes. There's a quiet current moving between you and you can feel it in your bones. This isn't just about flirting or the surface level charm we all know. This is about the deeper, primal signals, the kind that bypass the brain and go straight to the body. Women are masters at subtlety. They don't always announce their desire in words, but desire has a language of its own. Today we're going to explore that language, not in cliches, not in pick-up lines, but in the unspoken ways a woman reveals her arousal when she sees you. It's not crude, it's not vulgar, it's intimate. It's about understanding connection, reading emotional energy, and recognizing when attraction moves from the mind to the body. Because when you can sense those signs, you're no longer guessing. You're fluent in a language most men never even hear. You know, there's a moment in human connection that is so delicate, so fleeting, that most people miss it entirely. It's not the first smile or the casual hello or even the way two people begin a conversation. It's before that, in the space where instinct lives, where desire shows up unannounced. A woman might not say, "You excite me," out loud. She might not even consciously admit it to herself in that instant. But her body, her body will always tell the truth. And the truth has its own rhythm, its own little betrayals. The first thing you have to understand is this female arousal is rarely a loud announcement. It's not about exaggerated gestures or movie scene seduction. It's a shift in her energy, subtle but potent. Think of it like the change in the air before a summer storm. You can't see it yet, but you feel it brushing against your skin. Let me take you into the first sign, one that's almost poetic in its simplicity. It's the eyes. And I'm not talking about the obvious, she's staring at you moment. I mean the way her pupils expand, the way her gaze softens and deepens, as if she's not just looking at you, but into you. When a woman's pupils dilate, it's her body's involuntary way of taking in more of you. You become, in that moment, a stimulus her nervous system wants to absorb. And that softness in her eyes, that's her guard lowering, her curiosity stepping forward. You might catch her glancing, looking away, and then back again. But it's not random. There's an unconscious rhythm to it, a push and pull. She's not simply observing, she's feeling you. The eyes are a mirror to her inner state, and when she's aroused, her eyes have a kind of glow, as if she's lit from within. It's primal biology wrapped in human subtlety. Now, here's the second sign, and this one is even more revealing because it happens entirely without her permission. It's her breath, not in an exaggerated way, but in the slightest shift in tempo. Maybe she inhales a little more sharply when you lean closer, or her voice catches mid-sentence because her breathing has changed. Arousal affects the autonomic nervous system. That's the part of the body that controls things we don't consciously manage, like heartbeat and breathing. A woman who is wet when she sees you will often unconsciously adjust her breathing. She might take slower, deeper breaths, as if her body is grounding itself in your presence. Or she might suddenly speak in shorter sentences because her breath is just a little faster than usual. It's not something she plans. It's a physiological response to desire. And the beauty of it is, if you're present enough, you'll notice. But you see, noticing is an art. Most men walk through these moments blind because they're too focused on what to say next or how they're being perceived. The secret is to be there, to be curious without being invasive, to observe without making her feel examined. Because when a woman senses you can read her without judgment, she'll allow herself to lean into that connection even more. And this leads us into the third sign, one that dances right on the edge between conscious choice and unconscious reaction, her voice. The human voice is deeply connected to the emotional state, and arousal has a way of pulling it into a slightly lower, warmer register. You might notice her words slow down, or that her tone softens when she speaks to you. Scientists have found that women's voices can naturally become more breathy, more melodic when they're attracted. And in those moments, it's not just about the words she says, it's about how they feel when they reach you. She might laugh more easily, her giggles coming from a deeper, more relaxed place. Or she might linger on certain words, as though her mouth enjoys forming them in your presence. This is the poetry of desire. It's subtle, but it's incredibly powerful when you learn to attune yourself to it. Here's where the magic lies. These signs don't exist in isolation. The eyes, the breath, the voice, they weave together into a tapestry of attraction. You might catch one of them in passing, but when you begin to notice them overlapping, when you see the way her eyes deepen, her breath shifts, and her voice warms all in the same moment, that's when you know. And this is why so many men miss the chance to connect on a deeper level. They look for grand gestures, obvious declarations, when in reality the body whispers its truth in quiet, intimate signals. When you recognize them, you're no longer stumbling in the dark, wondering if she's into you. You're engaging with her on a frequency that most people don't even tune into. And in that space, trust begins to grow, because she feels understood without having to explain herself. Understanding these subtle cues doesn't mean you should suddenly announce, "Oh, I can tell you're aroused." That would break the spell instantly. Instead, it's about letting that knowledge inform your energy, your pacing, your presence. If you feel her leaning into the moment, you lean in too, not just physically, but emotionally. Match her rhythm, and the intimacy will grow naturally. Desire is a dance. Sometimes it's fast and playful, sometimes it's slow and deliberate, but it's always about two energies meeting in the middle. And when you can feel those first tremors of arousal in her, when you can see it in her eyes, hear it in her voice, sense it in her breath, you're not just another man she met. You've become the man her body remembers. There's something fascinating about the human body. It rarely lies. Words can be chosen, rehearsed, or hidden. But the body, when stirred by genuine attraction, speaks with an honesty that cannot be faked. Once you've learned to listen, you'll start noticing patterns that others overlook. We've talked about the eyes, the breath, the voice, but arousal is not limited to the face. It spills into posture, into the way she occupies her space, into the subtle choreography of her movements. One of the clearest signs is the way her body angles toward you. It may seem simple, but orientation is one of the most instinctive ways we show interest. When a woman is wet the moment she sees you, her body often seeks alignment with yours. If she's sitting, she might cross her legs in your direction, lean her upper body slightly toward you, or keep her shoulders facing you even while turning her head to engage in conversation. It's not just about physical proximity, it's about openness. Our bodies protect what we don't want touched, we expose what we feel safe, and sometimes drawn to share. Watch her feet too. Science tells us feet often point toward where our attention truly lies. If her feet keep finding their way toward you, even when she's speaking to someone else, that's her subconscious revealing where her energy is drawn. It's not intentional flirtation. It's biology guiding the compass of her desire. Then there's the micro movement many men never notice, the self-touch. Now this isn't the overt, cliché hair flip, though yes, hair play can be part of it. I'm talking about the way her fingers brush her neck, the way she adjusts a necklace, smooths her dress, or runs her hand lightly along her own arm. Self-touch serves a dual purpose. It draws your eyes to parts of her body she's subconsciously highlighting, and it stimulates her own sensory nerves. In a way, she's both inviting your attention and heightening her own awareness of her body in your presence. Let's not forget the warmth of the skin. You won't always be close enough to feel it, but if you are, maybe in a handshake, a light touch on the arm, or a playful bump of the shoulder, you might notice her skin feels warmer than expected. Arousal increases blood flow, especially to the surface of the skin. That warmth isn't just in her imagination, it's her body physically responding to yours. And then there's the way she manages her voice in moments of arousal. You might notice a playful hesitation before she speaks, as if she's briefly lost her train of thought. That's not necessarily because she's shy, it's because desire can be distracting. The nervous system diverts energy towards sensation, sometimes leaving words momentarily suspended. It's why she might pause mid-sentence, smile at you without finishing her thought, and then pick it up again as if nothing happened. But here's the real beauty of it all: when she's wet from simply seeing you, there's often a change in her emotional cadence. She may become more playful, teasing you lightly, or she might grow softer, more intimate in her questions. This is because attraction doesn't just live in the body. It alters the mind's approach to connection. A woman who feels that spark with you might ask more personal questions, lean into vulnerability, or share small secrets she wouldn't give to just anyone. This isn't a tactic. It's instinct, the desire to deepen the bond with the person who stirs her. I want you to imagine this scene: you walk into a cafe and see her already seated. She notices you before you've spotted her. Her back straightens slightly, her lips part in a subtle, unplanned smile, and her hand reaches to smooth her hair. By the time you've arrived at her table, her voice is a little lower, her pupils slightly wider. She's not trying to seduce you, not consciously, but the current is already moving between you, and it's written all over her body. Men often misinterpret this kind of energy as she's just being friendly, but friendliness has a lighter quality, a social ease that doesn't carry the same magnetic pull. When arousal is present, there's a weight in the air, not heavy in a burdensome way, but dense with possibility. And here's where the maturity comes in, especially for men over 30 who've seen enough of life to know that attraction is more than a game. Recognizing these signs isn't about exploiting them, it's about respecting them, understanding that you've been given access to a moment of vulnerability, even if she doesn't see it that way. Female desire, especially when it sparks so quickly, is a layered thing. It's physical, yes, but it's also emotional, psychological, sometimes even spiritual. When you see her shift in her seat, angle her body toward you, play with the stem of her glass while maintaining that soft gaze, she's letting her attraction breathe. Your role, if you're the kind of man who wants to create connection rather than simply consume it, is to meet her in that place with equal presence. And this is where many men fail, not because they don't see the signs, but because they rush. They jump from recognition to action without allowing the moment to mature. The most powerful connections aren't seized, they're cultivated. Just as you wouldn't pull fruit from a tree the second it appears, you wouldn't rush a moment of genuine attraction into something it's not ready to be. So when you notice her body turning toward you, her fingers tracing her own skin, her gaze lingering just a heartbeat longer than necessary, let that awareness guide your energy. Slow your movements, lower your tone, let pauses live between your words. You're not just reacting to her, you're harmonizing with her. Because in the end, these signs are not a checklist. They're brushstrokes on a larger painting, one that you and she are co-creating in real time. And when you understand how to read them without breaking their spell, you're no longer just another man in the room. You become the man her body chose before her mind even had the chance to speak. When desire takes root, it doesn't stay still. It grows, it shifts, it travels through the body like a current, changing the way she moves, the way she looks at you, even the way she exists in the space you share. By now, you've felt the pull in her eyes, the warmth in her breath, the tilt of her body toward yours. But there's another layer, a quieter, more intimate register of signs that often go unnoticed. These are the moments when the attraction between you and her moves from a flicker to a slow, steady flame. One of those signs lives in her lips. It's the kind of thing you can only notice if you're truly present, because it's often so small, so quick, you could miss it entirely. A woman who is aroused may part her lips slightly when looking at you, almost as if she's caught mid-thought. Sometimes she moistens them without realizing. A flicker of her tongue across the surface, a gentle press together as if to feel her own mouth. This isn't about seduction in the Hollywood sense. It's an instinctive reaction to heightened awareness, a preparation for intimacy that her conscious mind might not even register. Watch also for the stillness between movements. You'd think attraction would make someone fidget more, but sometimes it has the opposite effect. When she's wet the moment she sees you, there can be a pause in her gestures, a lingering in whatever she's doing, as though her attention has shifted inward to the sensation in her body. It's as if the world narrows for a second, and you are the focal point. Another sign is how easily she breaks into a smile in your presence, not the polite, social smile, but the soft, involuntary one that lifts the corners of her mouth slowly, almost shyly. This smile often comes after you've spoken, as if your words landed in a place deeper than just her ears. It's a smile of being moved, touched, stirred. And it's one of the most beautiful indicators that her attraction is not just surface level, it's visceral. There's also a shift in the way she listens. Desire sharpens attention. You'll notice she holds your gaze longer when you're speaking, as though she's drinking in not just the words, but the cadence of your voice. She might tilt her head slightly, exposing the side of her neck, one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. This openness is not conscious strategy, it's the body's way of saying, I feel safe here, I want to receive you. Now, let's talk about proximity. A woman whose body responds to you will often move closer without seeming to notice. Maybe she leans over the table just a little more than necessary, or she stands beside you at a distance that blurs the boundary of personal space. This is subtle. You won't feel her pressed against you unless the context allows, but you'll sense her within your sphere, close enough that you can hear the change in her breathing, smell the faint trace of her perfume. But here's the most intimate tell, and the one that reveals not just physical arousal, but emotional connection. She mirrors you. Humans are wired for mimicry when we feel aligned with someone, but when arousal is present, that mirroring becomes almost unconscious. If you take a sip of your drink, she might reach for hers. If you lean back, she adjusts in a way that matches your posture. This isn't performance, it's the nervous system sensing up, a reflection of the bond she feels in that moment. I want you to imagine this. You're standing together at a social gathering. The music hums in the background, people are laughing nearby, but in your little corner, the atmosphere is different. She's facing you fully, her weight resting more on the leg closest to you, her shoulders relaxed. She laughs at something you say, not too loudly, but with a warmth that reaches her eyes. And then almost imperceptibly, her hand brushes against yours. Maybe it's accidental, maybe it's not. But the contact lingers just long enough for you to feel the softness of her skin. It's in moments like this that you realize desire is not always loud. Sometimes it's in the quiet space between words, in the shared air, in the pause before the next thing happens. It's a slow burn that invites you to stay in the moment, to savor it rather than rush to the next step. And here is where your maturity as a man matters most. Recognizing that she's wet when she sees you is not a green light for instant escalation. It's an invitation to deepen presence, to let the connection evolve with respect and curiosity. The most profound intimacy isn't about moving faster, it's about moving deeper. Because when you respond to her subtle cues with patience and awareness, you create something she will remember long after the moment has passed. You become not just the man who excited her body, but the man who made her feel fully seen. And that is rare. Attraction is never just physical. The body reacts, yes, the widened pupils, the shift in breath, the subtle tilt of her body toward yours. But these signs are also a reflection of what's happening in her mind. When a woman's body responds to you in that instant, it's because something inside her feels both stirred and safe. This combination is rare. Arousal without safety can feel exciting but unstable. Safety without arousal can feel comfortable but uninspired. When both exist together, that's when the body and mind harmonize. That's when you walk into a room and her whole being says yes before she's even thought of the words. What's interesting is that for many women, desire starts in the mind but shows itself in the body. Her reaction to you, the warmth in her skin, the softness in her voice, the way her posture shifts is her body's way of expressing something she may not yet consciously label as arousal. It could be the memory of a shared moment, the way you once looked at her across a table, or something in your energy right now that speaks to her deepest, most unspoken fantasies. You see, women are often navigating layers of emotion and thought before they let desire have its way. Social conditioning, life experience, even the mood of the day. All of these things shape how open she is to feeling. So when her body responds instantly to you, understand that you're not just triggering a biological reflex. You're tapping into a psychological space where attraction feels welcome. That's why confidence, real confidence, not bravado, matters so much here. Women are exquisitely sensitive to the energy you bring. If you're too focused on proving yourself, she feels the tension in your body, the restlessness in your eyes. But if you're grounded, if you're present enough to meet her gaze without needing to dominate it, you give her room to relax into her own desire. And here's the nuance: most men miss the signs we've been talking about. The pupils, the breath, the self-touch aren't just about lust. They're about permission. Her body is saying, I'm willing to feel this with you. And the more you honor that unspoken permission with steadiness, the more those signs deepen. Think of it like music. The first glance, the change in breath, those are the opening notes. They're delicate, easily disrupted. If you rush in too aggressively, it's like blasting over those notes with noise. But if you listen, if you allow the rhythm to build, you create space for the melody to expand. Now, here's where psychology weaves even tighter into the picture. When she's wet from simply seeing you, it often ties to the story she tells herself about you. Maybe you represent adventure. Maybe you feel like safety. Maybe it's the rare combination of both. You are, in that moment, a living embodiment of something she wants to feel more of in her life. And you can't fake that. You can't act like that man, because the body knows the truth. She reads it in the ease of your movements, the consistency in your voice, the way you take in the room without constantly seeking validation. It's not about being perfect. It's about being authentic. When you are comfortable in yourself, she feels free to be comfortable in her own body around you. And that's when the signs of her arousal come effortlessly. It's also important to understand that some of these signals are subconscious tests. Not tests in the manipulative sense, but in the way her mind is gauging whether it's safe to let the attraction breathe. If she steps a little closer and you flinch or stiffen, she reads that. If she opens her body toward you and you crowd her space too quickly, she reads that too. Every small response you give shapes whether those signals grow or fade. This is why patience is not passive. It's active awareness. You're not waiting for something to happen. You're participating in it by showing her that the moment is as safe as it is charged. And there's another psychological layer that often goes unspoken: fantasy. Many women live with a quiet, private world of erotic imagination, scenarios, sensations, possibilities that they rarely share openly. When her body responds to you, it's possible you've stepped into the territory of one of those fantasies without even knowing it. Maybe you remind her of a type she's always been drawn to. Maybe your energy triggers a memory of a thrilling moment from her past. Maybe the way you look at her opens a door to something she's been longing to explore. That's the power of reading these signs with sensitivity. You're not just acknowledging her attraction, you're stepping into a world she may not share with anyone else. And that is a privilege. So, when you notice her eyes soften, her breath shift, her body lean in, you don't just take it as a cue for what you want next. You take it as a moment to connect more deeply to what she is feeling. Ask her a question that draws her closer into the conversation. Let your touch, if it happens, be slow and deliberate. Give her room to stay in that space with you for as long as she wants. Because here's the truth. The most unforgettable encounters are not the ones that move the fastest. They're the ones where time seemed to slow down, where each glance and touch felt like a chapter in a story you were writing together. When you can turn those subtle signs into a shared experience rather than a quick conquest, you're no longer just a man she desired in a fleeting moment. You're the man she remembers. There's something profoundly beautiful about these moments we've been talking about. The way attraction whispers rather than shouts. The way it lives in glances and breaths and subtle movements. We often think desire is something loud, a performance, a deliberate seduction. But the truth, the most powerful desire is often the quietest. It's in the moments that happen almost by accident, when two people simply see each other and the body responds before the mind can even keep up. When a woman is wet the moment she sees you, it's not just about you being physically appealing. It's about the connection you spark, The way her mind, her body, and her emotional memory align in that instant, you've become for her a reminder of something she craves: intimacy, excitement, safety, possibility. And here's what I want you to carry with you. Recognizing these signs isn't about control. It's not about learning a trick to get women. That way of thinking reduces something sacred to something transactional. This is about attunement, about presence, about the rare ability to read the unspoken language of desire and respond with grace rather than greed. Because when you notice her pupils widen, her breath deepen, her voice grow warmer, her body lean in, her fingers trace her own skin, you are witnessing a vulnerable moment. Even if she doesn't consciously register it as vulnerability, her body is revealing something private. And your response in that moment defines not just whether she stays in that space, but how she remembers you afterward. You see, anyone can elicit a reaction, but not everyone can hold it. Not everyone can protect the energy of that moment so that it blooms instead of wilting. That's the difference between a man who simply turns heads and a man who lingers in a woman's thoughts for days, weeks, maybe even years. If you want to be that man, here's the secret. Don't rush to claim what's being offered. Let it breathe. Match her pace. When you feel her drawing closer, both physically and emotionally, don't jump ahead, meet her there. If she leans in, you lean in just enough for her to feel your presence, your attention. If her voice softens, lower yours so it meets her in that intimate register. If her touch lingers, let yours answer, not overwhelm. These moments are not about technique. They are about sensitivity, to her cues, to her comfort, to the energy you're sharing. It's about creating a space where she feels free to keep feeling, rather than self-conscious about what she's showing. And the beauty of this is that it's not just about attraction. Learning to notice and respect these subtle signs will make you a better partner, a better lover, a better communicator in every part of your life, because it's really about listening, not just with your ears, but with your whole presence. So the next time you walk into a room and feel that shift in the air, that almost imperceptible change in the way she looks at you, take a breath. Let yourself enjoy it without rushing. Look back at her not with hunger, but with curiosity. Let her feel that you've noticed and that you're the kind of man who will let the moment unfold naturally. Because here's the thing, when you give her the freedom to stay in that place without pressure, you're giving her something rare. You're giving her the safety to fully inhabit her own desire. And that, more than anything, is what makes her remember you, not just as a man she wanted, but as a man she trusted to hold her wanting. And maybe that's the greatest gift you can give to any connection. The gift of being fully there. No games, no rush. Just two people meeting in the same moment. Both aware, both alive, both willing to let the spark become whatever it's meant to be. If you've been listening to this and thinking, I've missed these signs before, don't be hard on yourself. Most people do. We live in a world that teaches us to talk more than we listen, to look for the obvious instead of the subtle. But the more you practice noticing, the more fluent you become in this language. And once you're fluent, you'll see that it's not just about women being wet when they see you. It's about understanding attraction in its purest form, in all the small magical ways it shows itself. So, I'll leave you with this. The next time you feel that electricity between you and her, remember that you're not just witnessing desire, you're part of it, and how you show up in that moment will decide whether it becomes a fleeting spark or the start of a fire that stays in her memory. If you found value in this conversation, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments below. Tell me about the moments when you knew she felt it too. And if this spoke to you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the art of connection. Here's to being more present, more attuned, and more alive to the beauty of desire when it finds you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.